Hello, I want to talk to you today about keeping cool under hot circumstances. So, life sometimes will grill you. It will burn even, it will hurt, disappointing. But how do you keep cool under tough circumstances? Well, I think the first thing is you have to regulate your response. You have to get built up through something. I believe in the power of prayer, fellowship with God. And when I'm doing those things and doing those things appropriately, I can withstand some pretty big attacks. Now, at first, when I was going through this, pertaining to health, my life was so difficult that it brought me to my knees, and I felt like the things that I was doing had no effect, or little effect even. And then I made some poor choices on top of that too. But nevertheless, the direction I was going in was more or less keep pushing on, keep doing what you're doing, don't worry about what happens. And then eventually the outcome will be greater than you anticipated. You will have a story to tell. You will have a life full of many blessings and many great things and many things to say and overflowing peace, even in the midst of your worst pains. And I'm telling you right now, I've experienced more pain in the last 2-3 years of my life than the entirety of 15 years of manual labor. Okay, I've experienced horrendous situations and things, and people that are pouring some salt on top of the wound, making it considerably worse than what it was or needed to be. And that's okay, because hey, people are people, they're broken, and you kind of understand who's for you and who's against you. The ones that come to pull you out of the fire are your buddies. The ones that put more wood on the fire, not your friends. And not that you keep score or anything, but you just remember who's for you and who's against you, who helped you when they could have kicked you in the head and watched you drown. And that's okay, and that's all fine and good. But nevertheless, keeping cool under this heat, well, you have to adapt to it. The heats of life will produce great things in you. We're all going to go through trials. The world's getting worse every day. We're on the brink of war. What are you going to do when the supply chain breaks down due to tariffs and unforeseeable things, and the cost of living goes up astronomically? That's what we're looking at. It's going to happen eventually, whether or not be in the next 2 to 4 years. Who's to not say the next 2 to 4 years if we're still all around singing Kumbaya? So, yet again, what do? Well, you have to learn to give up on your need to survive, your need to just barely get by. A lot of us, almost everybody, especially in America, has an orphan spirit. You feel abandoned. You feel neglected. You feel like, you won't make it. But I'm telling you, if you tap into something greater, and that is Jesus Christ, if you were able to tap into that and his will for your life and put down your life, well, you'll see a change in you, and you'll see things and experience things you never thought possible. For example, peace in the storm. There's many times where I've had peace in or after the storms, after the pain, after the discipline, after the breaking. It's a breaking. Really, it's a breaking, and the whole goal of the heats of life is to, break you down like you're in the army and rebuild you back up. I do believe in a creator, and I do believe his hands are on everything. And, I was having kind of a conversation with God this morning. And he's like, hey, you can forgive me for doing wrong, right? It's like, well, this seems a little bit heretical, but yes, of course, because, the Bible says, though you slay me, I will still, praise you, right? So, God is the one that's harming you. God is the one that's allowing these painful things to happen, but you can sort of forgive him because you love him, right? Like he's sort of the cause, like he's sort of the architect of it. He's using it to mold you, to shape you for greater purposes. He's using your sin against you to get you to stop sinning. That's the whole goal. So if you can forgive him of the great pain that he's caused you or allowed you to experience, why can't you forgive yourself of the pain and the failures that you have caused other people? Why can't you forgive yourself of the mistakes you made yesterday? A lot of people are boiling in their own grief for the things that they've done when there's no need for it. God is all about grace and forgiveness. The more that you know God and understand God, it's all grace, because if it wasn't, he would just kill you and throw you into hell. It would just be over. Like reality wouldn't be, there wouldn't be a second chance. There wouldn't be 100th chance. There would be no extra chances. In fact, it would be a one and done deal. And that's kind of the gravity of the situation, and how mighty that God is, and how holy and pure. And the word I think I'm looking for is maybe not authoritarian, but basically king of all. He has the ability to do such things, to just stuff them out instantaneously. There is no rebellion in the realm of God, but again, he tarries with us and he suffers along with us, and he allows us to go through temporal things that will change you and take you from glory to glory and make you a greater person than you could ever imagine being. And be able to touch people's lives and help them and give them what they need in a moment. I've seen it in my life, not in any grand measure, but I just always kind of just said, God, if I can only help one person, then so be it. If I can only help two, then so be it. I don't care. I want to do what you have for me. No pride, because people get prideful if you give them too much to do too soon. They become prideful and they do it wrong, and then they end up hurting people, and then their life amounts to nothing. So I'd rather be faithful in the little, that he has for me, and do it very well. And so I've adapted that. And a lot of that is health. I try to help people with their health problems, with the things that I found that have worked, and the things that I found that have worked for other people, and kind of going down that road. I've learned a lot about like human anatomy and how, it's been a big blessing. Like, I'm not a biologist, I'm not a chemist, but I understand like certain compounds that do certain things in certain conditions. A lot of conditions, ironically, actually, and like kind of how to treat them and kind of what the underlying causes are. It's really fascinating. And like I would say probably 9 times out of 10, like by the grace of God, I'm right. And it's really crazy. And that's a recent development, like inside of the last year, where I can kind of just look at somebody, look at their labs, look at a little bit, and I can kind of give them a general direction to go in and help them overcome very terrible things, because that's what happened to me, right? Like I was in a place where I had no answers, and I had to figure it out by the grace of God. And then I had to change the way how I figure things out, because it was wrong. I was relying on my own power, my own wit, my own this, my own that, and then it's like, no, there's no room for God in that, and there's no room to do that right or righteously, and then you just end up becoming proud. So I had to put a lot of that aside and just, pick things up as God gave them to me, so to speak. There's a way to do that, and to do that righteously, and to be right, to have the right answers for people who are messed up, and if they can apply them, in most cases, they get better. And I've seen that a little bit, I haven't seen the total fruits of that, because this is kind of a first fruit thing for me, but I have seen some of that in people around me. Like they get better. Like we kind of stumble through some things, and even things like the doctors recommend to do, right? Like we try that, and then some things that kind of piggyback off of that, but then we kind of figure out what's right and what's wrong. And yet again, seeing, better quality of life for people. And so that's something that's definitely happened to me in my own fire, in my own pit, in my own place of temporary but extended suffering, and I've seen my life quality get better as well, thanks be to God. And, I wouldn't be out here doing what I'm doing today if it was not for that. And I oftentimes kind of ask God, how do I glorify you properly? You're an eternal God. You have so many great eternal qualities and things about you. And I've am so short-sighted many times. And it's like, well, it's a matter of the heart. You know, it's where you're coming from in that moment. And it's how do you adapt your life where you're continually coming from that place? Well, it's a process, because you have to break down the things inside of you that are wrong and replace them with good things. And that takes time. But, you know, you just kind of do that. And you get a greater sense of purpose if you will glorify God with your life. You get a greater sense of fulfillment that you don't get from anything, from food, from women, from drugs, from, whatever floats your boat. And it's kind of the cure to, narcissism and narcissistic tendencies that we all have. Everyone, especially in America, has a narcissistic side or leaning or inclination, whether you like it or not. And to kill that effectively, you have to kind of see how good God is and how much he suffers with your life. I was kind of praying. I was like, God, I want to see people healed that can't be healed. I want to see people that are broken beyond repair become healed. I want to see that. People that suffer with great personality disorders that are completely irremovable, because of circumstances. I feel that way. I feel like that's possible. And that's the crying of my heart. And God's like, well, it starts with you, And, it's the real deal. I don't like it when things are, what am I looking for here? Unfixable. So anyways, have a great day.